And we are recording.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our 31st episode of Business Unusual, Prospecting Through Uncertainty, our webinar series or podcast with pictures, as Chris titles it.
Yes.
I'm Breandan Filbert, and I am your hostess with the mostest today. We are so excited to dive into today's topic. Just a really quick introduction. The perspective that I bring is I've been a sales coach for over 20 years, and I have seen sales trends change more than hem lengths and hairstyles. And I'm not even talking about pandemic hair right now, but there are some key things that we're finding about business development that are working right now. And Chris and I came up with this grand idea to share with you the strategies that are working in spite of all the turmoil and chaos that are going on around you, so that you can be focused and intentional with your prospecting and your marketing effort. So that's what we're bringing to you today. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Chris, my co-host with the most.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Motley, owner of Motley Creations. And my perspective is from a lifetime, decades of working in the marketing and advertising field, from agencies to print companies to Fortune 500 companies. And what Motley Creations does is we kind of focus on managed marketing services. And we work with small to medium-sized businesses with big goals. So what does that mean? Well, I help find the right size solutions to execute on their marketing strategy and develop the brand and image they need to be successful.
And we are excited to have you with us today. So we're going to be diving into our topic today, which is talking all about cross-selling. And what are some of the tactics that you need in order to have the most effective cross-selling campaign that you possibly can build? And I'm going to actually have Chris kick us off today. And let me go ahead and just shut off my webcam real quick, so that I'm not going to be sucking up bandwidth as we go. There we go.
All right. Thank you, Breandan. And you're correct. We are very excited about this content. And so what we're talking about here is, where should you be spending your marketing effort and dollars for the greatest ROI? Seems pretty straightforward, right? And you would think that most people running a business for a long time would know where to do that, but it's not always common sense. So what they used to do back in the day was, if you asked a CMO before the interweb and all that, how do you decide, or how do you market? And they go, well, you take 40% of your gross from last year and you throw it out the window. Well, that's not how we have to do it now. I mean, there's a million different advances in technology and stuff, so you can measure pretty much anything, especially if you have a CRM. So what we want you to know here is the high point is, don't guess, right? You need to measure everything, and measuring what happens is, you're going to make mistakes, as with anything in life. You're going to make mistakes, but if you measure, you don't have to make them twice. And so what we're covering here is the first avenue to spend money. This is the most a significant success rate, is cross-selling. So let's go ahead and move forward.
Fantastic. All right. I can tell you that in 20 years of serving as a sales coach and consultant, without fail, if I start to really look at what my customers are doing with their marketing and sales effort, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the first place that I can immediately have a small win that can grow to a big win is focusing on the top relationships that are present in that business or within your book of business. And this goes, who we're talking to today with this, we didn't talk about that as we kick things off, and normally we do. What we are talking to today is specifically anyone that has a base of relationships that they are wondering, how do you tap in to that relationship base and identify where you should focus your attention in order to get the most traction And the traction I'm specifically talking about right now is closed business. And if you think about your absolute best relationships that you have, the people that love you and they trust you and they follow your advice and guidance and they buy everything you have to sell, I want you to think about how you grow those relationships by 20%. And in some cases, you may be tapped out. There may be nothing more you can sell them, in which case we want you to be expanding your thinking a bit today with what should you be coming up with so that those relationships are not at risk. And we're going to dive into that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So as we're diving in, what I want you to think about is what are the natural avenues that you are going to be able to enhance the buyer journey. So, you know, it's funny because Chris and I have been partakers of one another's solutions enough that we understand what we each do from both sides of it, not only the selling side, but also the buyer experience side. And I don't know, I tend to minimize or not really understand the importance of key steps along that customer experience. And that I know creates gaps that should be filled. So I love giving an example. We actually have a couple to talk about with you. My first example that I like sharing is I've got a prospecting forum that Donna is participating in. I've got several other folks that are participating in it right now. What I discover through my experience is that as you begin your productive prospecting journey and your path to making the most of your relationships, that you have gaps that are present in how you are approaching your marketing strategy. And so I built the forum in order to address those gaps. And then throughout the forum experience, I know that in order for them to accomplish everything that we have as tasks, that there may be some of those pieces that they don't have the resources or the capabilities in order to do themselves. So we have to go find service providers that can actually help address that in order to expand. So the expansion is not just through what you offer, but it's also through what resources you collaborate with and bring to the table. And Chris has another perspective I'd love for him to share.
So sure, and thank you, Breandan, and that's what I love about working with Breandan is we come from two sides of the coin, same coin, right? And it's outstanding to me to get another perspective. I mean, in my business, that's how I make money, is my perspective on things. So, and one of the examples that I want to use is from a Fortune 500 company. And what we did was we did a lot of the sprint user guides. And, you know, while that seems just pretty straightforward, the goal in this was to stop churn, which is clients leaving, and to stop calls to customer care. So we wanted to make it, A, we wanted to protect their brand in it, and B, we wanted to make it very easy to follow the directions and things, so you could learn how to set up your voicemail and start your phone up and all things like that. And while it's, you know, it was kind of presumptuous of us to just go, hey, let's write it this way, and everybody wouldn't understand what that means. What we ended up doing was we set up some trials, right? We put some clients in a room and gave them a user guide and a phone and said, please set up your voicemail. And that's it. And then we just filmed what they did. And then we asked them questions about afterwards, what was easy, what was hard. And that goes back to my original point earlier, was, you know, you don't want to guess in these kind of things. You want to speak to people how they want to be spoken to. You want to add value to them, and the best person to ask about how to add value to is the client themselves. So great lesson for me.
And you uncover so much when you really start to dig into what that customer experience is. And, then we end up taking a peek at who do we need to be focusing on right now? Because I know that so many people want to pick up and run with the I want to go to dormant accounts. I haven't sold to these people for a long time. I haven't gotten any business from them for a long time. So I want to reach out and re-engage that.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
we go for this new generation. How often is it, Chris, when you're brought in, that you're brought in because they want to grow their business, and so what do they ask you to do?
Yeah. And it's what people don't understand is that it costs significantly more to get new clients than it does to cross sell and upsell to the current clients that you have. And it's all of you have heard this, the 80/20 rule, and it applies. I have not found a segment of my life that it doesn't apply in. Right. So there's 20% of your clients that generate 80% of your revenue. And people have this misconception that, who's your target audience? Anybody with a wallet. That is not true. What you want is to clone the 20%. But before you do that, you need to make sure that you are reaching the maximum capacity of services and the quality of their experience, right? So that's why we're talking about cross sell. And then Brendan's going to talk about the strategy behind that.
And what's interesting, and I'm going to give just a really quick example here because I think it's very powerful. I had one of my clients that was a Fortune 100 insurance carrier.
Mm-hmm.
And what they discovered when they did an analysis, all of their business came about via brokers representing their services. They found that 95% of their revenue came from 5% of their relationships,
Right.
as in the resellers or the brokers. And what they did is, rather than going and creating a new business strategy of increasing and targeting more of the 95% to engage, what they did is they created broker loyalty programs for the 5%. That's where they spent their effort. And they had a 30% increase in their sales just by doubling down on resources for that 5%.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they did is they created a path to grow so that it became very elite. So that scarcity mental trigger that we've talked about, it became a really big deal to qualify to be in that 5%, to have access to those other broker loyalty programs. So that's something that I'd like for you to be thinking about, is when you focus this, it's not always about your top relationships being your top clients. Sometimes it's your top referral partners that you're going to provide more and more resources to.
Good point. Oh yeah, that's fantastic. And that's what this this is what I love about working with Brendan, is that on a regular basis, just having normal conversation, she blows the top of my head off. Um, so what products do you sell to them? Right. And we talked to a young lady before this, and we've kind of covered some of the things that I think, you could use to answer some of the questions you asked in the beginning, which is, where do I go from here, and your nurture sequence and things like that. So what you need to think about, or these are the questions that you need to ask yourself and even the client, is what stands beside your product in the aisle of their experience. So if you sell, I don't know if any of you got the email that we sent out, and the cross-selling is, it said bought this, and there's a vacation, right? Plane tickets to a beach. Then you're going to need this, and it's a sale item, which is, flippers and a mask and snorkel and things like that. And then you add scarcity, limited time offer, right? And you got to think of what goes along with the product or service that you're selling. Now, if you don't provide that service, then it goes back to what Brendan was talking about before, is you find, a partner business that stands right beside you. And in my case, it's a three-legged stool for marketing, sales, and advertising, right? So I can get people's phone to ring, but maybe they can't close a sale. So I can offer them an introduction to Breandan, and it helps the client. It makes me look good. It makes Breandan good. It's all a great relationship. So that goes to the next bullet is what companion product would enhance their experience? That's a complete enhancement of their experience. And it pays off in ROI, right? For everybody involved.
And
So,
we actually demonstrated that also, Chris, when you think about the reminder email
right.
that we sent out on Monday of this week. It was not only the invitation to attend this, but also the link to last week's recording that made today's experience even better, as well as another session that was offered by the Women's Business Center yesterday.
Right.
That is on understanding your target audience. So we demonstrated what we're talking about in that exact email.
And that's what I love I'm not so much a fan of people who don't practice what they preach. And that's kind of what attracted me to working with Breandan is she practices what she preaches. It's not just conceptual with her. So, and the only thing I want you to think about is are there any gaps that exist in your product offering that could be enhanced? And it doesn't necessarily mean, again, that you do it in-house. And it might be something that you do in-house. Maybe you do it, you get it, in my case, do it as a contractor, do it out-house, and then have proof of concept, and then you bring that person in, right, as an employee, and then you start, adding that service to the list. But you got to think about the first bullet is what stands next to it in the aisle. And the last is do you have exposure? Are you opening the door for competition? And as we were planning this, one of the things I told Breandan is I think it's the worst thing you could ever hear from a client is, oh, I didn't know you did that. That's horrible, right? It would people make assumptions, right? And they go, I have clients that maybe did print and things like that with me, and then they went to somebody else for their website, and that's my fault back then. It was my fault because I did not um, try to cross sell them, right? Let them know that I had these other services available.
Well, and one thing that I also want to make sure that I point out on the open door for competition piece of this is we have, Chris and I work with so many different professions day to day, but I'll give just a really quick example here. If you sell property and casualty insurance, and that's all you sell is P&C, and your customer has employees, they're going to need group health. And they may not need group health as in benefits that you provide, but their employees are going to need some kind of healthcare coverage. And you are going to have to provide them with a resource to that, unless you want a competitor to get in there, because there are so many different agencies that have created those companion services that are all under one umbrella. So now the trend is it's all risk management, and people bring comprehensive risk management solutions rather than solo offerings. And I'm telling you, your customers want that. They don't want to be shopping around. Your best customers don't want to talk to 10 different people in order to figure out which solutions they need the most. They would rather have one trusted point of contact that they go to for everything related to your area of expertise. So if you're in leadership development, then what you need to be thinking about is what are all of the components of leadership development. So it's strategic planning, it's prioritization, it's time management, it's people engagement. There's so many different, it's developing your leaders within your next succession strategy. There's so many of those components that all fit under it. And I have so many people who are like, well, but I'm not interested in all that other stuff. All I'm interested in is this. And maybe they carved out a very small niche or area of interest. For instance, I love prospecting. That is my jam. All day, every day. I would be so happy if I could do nothing but meet new people and uncover problems and deliver value and I want to make an impact in people's lives around prospecting. And that's kind of a big topic. but it's one of those big topics that when I dive into, people think they have a prospecting issue, and normally it's something else entirely.
Mhm.
And so I have to be able to serve them. Otherwise, I'm going to leave a whole lot of people out there that are primed and would love to work with me, but the timing's just not quite right. And when you have opportunities to cross sell or cross serve through other services and products, it just does so much to enhance that entire relationship. So now I do want to actually talk about what that path of discovery is so that you recognize how do you create that cross-selling. So if you think about it, remember that we always have this funnel that people have to go down. And at the very top, the funnel is broad. It's when people have an interest in the subject matter. And then as they work through the funnel, that interest is narrowed. It either is a priority or it isn't a priority. Timing is right or it's not. They either have the resources to do something or they don't. And then as they start to self-select into the path, then they're moving through consideration. And the key thing that you have to do is meet them where they're at. So in awareness, the biggest thing is recognizing that people need to, again, opt in or opt out of the funnel. And the more you design your campaign to ask the questions that help them figure out, is this right for me right now? Am I the right person at the right time in the right place? And if those three questions aren't answered, then they shouldn't proceed to the consideration phase. It's not the right time. They're not optimal for being one of those top customers that you can serve. And remember that sometimes the biggest benefit that you can bring somebody is telling them no. I can't tell you how many relationships I have decades later because I did not take the business. They were there, they needed help, they wanted help, but they weren't in a position to take advantage of it based on what was going on in their life or in their business. So I sent them a different direction, and I did get them help for what they needed help with based on what we discovered. So, and that's why what you need to think about is the questions to ask at the beginning of the awareness stage. So your cross-selling campaign, when you first start thinking about this, your initial messages that you put together and send out really need to be focused around who is that right person, what is the right time for them, and are there enough reasons for them to engage. The fun thing about cross-selling is these folks already have trust in you. You've already demonstrated your capability. They already understand that you have authority over your area of interest. So all of that heavy lifting in the buyer journey is done. So in a lot of cases, this path to cross-selling can be accelerated greatly. So then the next stage is where the consideration. This is where you can provide them with case studies or one of your other customers' journeys. Those are so incredibly powerful to document. Is when you have someone that is a client in one area and you document how you were able to enhance or expand their experience or the benefits through adding this additional product or service. That's a really amazing tactic for you to employ with your cross-selling strategy. And then finally, we recognize that the final stages of that buyer journey, at the very bottom of the funnel, this is where they're making that decision. This is where you discover what the internal problems may be, what their challenges are to overcoming, what are their objections, where have they had bad experiences in the past, where may they not have the resources they need in order to execute whatever it is you're bringing them. So that's when you think about that final stage. What is incredibly powerful is if you put together tools for them that actually help them with navigating. Recognize that the cross-selling strategy that you do You need to solve at least a couple of problems for your prospects along that buyer journey path. And the couple of problems that you may be solving for them, I'm not talking about doing unpaid consulting. What I am talking about is shifting their thinking or making them aware of something that they should be doing that they haven't considered in the past. It's giving them an awareness or understanding, or even the most powerful thing you can do for them at this point is provide them with tools that help them quantify what it's costing them to not take action. And these are just a few of the things that when you think about what that path looks like, this is how you create your cross-selling strategy. So you think about it, there's going to be a series of messages. Chris is going to be diving into the toolkit and how we're going to go about doing it. But what's key is you recognize that there is a communication path. This is not a one and done message. This is probably anywhere from 7 to 10 messages that you are going to want to craft. And if you follow this format that I've laid out here, this is going to help you with understanding what needs to happen with each one of those messages. And remember to go back and listen to the recording from last week so that you understand, you know, where and how that buyer journey and all of the other information plays into it. Okay.
Outstanding. Oops.
Okay. So the other thing to think about in terms of creating your cross-selling strategy is there a logical time during the year? It's not I don't want your customers to feel like there's always a cross-selling activity or initiative going on. But it is a natural spot for you to fill in. And I just absolutely love, I love one example here. And this, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, I noticed that I had a really slow summer. And I started visiting with other trainers and consultants, and they said, oh yeah, July's always dead because that's when everybody's taken off on vacation. It's right before summer break is up, and the kids are going to have to start back to school 1st of August before a pandemic. There's so much stuff that's going on that July's just going to be dead. That's just when I take my vacation, and it's when I plan on everything that I want to be catching up in my business. I just recognize I'm not really going to be making any money in July. And of course, I'm just contrarian enough that I said, so is this just their judgment, or is it an assumption that's not correct for my business? And so I just started out with a, for giggles and grins, let's see if I can make July one of my best months. So I started 3 months out, and I identified that I wanted to target a particular group of prospects that I would cultivate that would be ready to close in July. And you'll never guess what I discovered. It was kind of funny because July ended up being my best training month ever. July and August, I shifted it from being what everybody else's historical averages had been to being my best month, because I made it a point of saying I'm not going to slow things down in July. So do you have slow months? So let's just take a quick minute. Do you find, and chat this in for me, do you find that there are naturally slow months in what you do right now? Where I know normally I'll get accountants on here. They're like, accountants say I don't have time to sell to anybody in March or April because of tax deadlines.
Right.
And sometimes that even goes a little bit earlier. So believe it or not, that may be one of your most effective times to create a cross-sell campaign, is during your busy season when you don't have time to be reaching out to people. This is when you can create content. So do me a quick favor, chat in and let me know if you have slow months. And do that in the questions pane. It will take just a quick minute. So let me know if there are slow months or if you have lulls in what you're doing. Or is it people always need what you have to offer? And then it's a case of you can pick up and bring in cash flow. Okay, so looks like we're hearing from both sides of it. We've got folks that do have those periodic lulls. And then we also have folks that they have cycles in their business where it becomes their busy season. Like I'll go back to insurance. We're in open enrollment period for group health, which means that's when if you're in the employee benefit space, you are going to be underwater from here until January 1. And I totally understand that. And in a lot of cases, if you're selling 401k or payroll solutions, it's the same thing. The last quarter is your busiest month. So think about what you can incorporate that would be an add-on strategy that would enhance the value of the onboarding of that new client or expanding existing clients right now. Oh, and then of course, you always have to remember if you are not doing it, somebody else will.
Mm-hmm.
This is you've got the prime reminder of your best clients are somebody else's best prospect. Okay, now I'm going to turn things over to Chris here real quick. And Chris,
Yep.
I'm going to see if I can just quickly make you presenter so you don't even have to jump in and do it. There you go. Okay, it's all you.
Oh, hold on. I don't have the PowerPoint
Oh,
open.
wait a minute. No, I was just going to give it to you so you could drive.
Yeah, you turned it over completely to me. So let me open the PowerPoint.
Oops. Hang on, I'll take it back. How did we do that before? Where I made it so you could drive the slide deck. Oh, here, this is it. Keyboard and mouse control.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what we wanted.
Yeah.
Why does it keep doing that?
There, I think I've got it sharing now.
You denied it.
I've got it sharing.
There we go. Okay, cool.
So
yay!
we get there we go. Okay, so you're going to need some tools, right, to do what we're talking about. Mostly what we've talked about is strategies and kind of theoretical things and questions to ask. And so to actually put this into action is you're going to need some tools to help you. So the first thing I recommend is a CRM. If you don't know what that is, it's stands for customer relationship management, and it's really customer and prospect relationship. And I'm fairly new to these, and I just absolutely adore them. There's things like Salesforce and HubSpot and Nimble, and it's technology that just make things so much easier. I mean, you can track anything from what you know, what their surfing habits is, where they've been on your website, emails that they've had between you and what they've opened and what they haven't. You can track service calls and maybe calls that they've called in and talked to anybody on your staff, and it just goes on and on and on, and it's just incredible to me. So I suggest if you don't have one, I would look into it. And right now we're kind of leaning it internally. We're kind of leaning towards Nimble, but don't there's a million different ones, and there's some of them focus on service, some of them focus on marketing. So do the research and find out what works well for you. Email marketing platforms, you're going to need that to do this. There's a bunch of them. Like we're kind of focusing here on MailChimp, but there's Constant Contact and things like that. And these are kind of little baby CRMs in and of themselves. We're also going to talk about copywriting, because you're going to need like clever calls to action and lead magnets, and it's not a list of how good you are. So I want you to know that right now. People have a tendency to just list out, this is why you should buy from me, and people buy for emotional reasons. They don't buy because you think it's good. You're also going to need to be able to make a landing page, and you can do this through most email marketing platforms, or if you have if you have a web person on staff. And then last, you're going to have some tools to close the deal. That's follow up. Do you have a sales team? Are you a solopreneur? And my experience is we did a SWOT analysis way back in the day, and what it came back is that I was terrible at selling. This was years and years and years ago, and that's kind of was right before I met Breandan. So it's not.
Well, and
Go ahead.
and the thing to also make sure that you think about within each one of these tools. So Chris kicked off our conversation today with talking about creating analytics and measuring everything that works. And you don't, right now, technology is advanced so much that you can measure the effectiveness of a single email and know exactly who it is that opened it, how long they spent on the page, what they clicked through. And now there are actually tools that can tell you when someone lands on your site. You can create analytics that are so targeted, that tell you what company they're in, what their role or decision making position is. I mean, it's almost scary what technology can tell about your habits as a buyer. And it's important that you think about all of the tools that are out there. And I don't know, I'm a fan of actually knowing what these things are that are going on, so that I understand how I can be a part of the process and take advantage of what's happening, and not just be the end product of everybody else's marketing approach.
Right.
So, this is everything that he's talking to you about is measurable, and you do have to engage the sales team throughout this process.
Oh yeah, it's just and we'll get into that when we get to CRMs. Um, so what I'm learning about CRMs and that I love is that they improve customer service, they increase sales, they help you have better retention rates, and the list is endless, right? And it's just as Breandan said, it's astounding. So think about your own experience for a second. Have you ever maybe searched on Google for, I don't know, in my case, a certain guitar, and then you go to a different website, maybe Facebook or social media of some kind, and what pops up in the little sales thing on the side? That guitar you've searched for. So your data is out there. It's out there all the time. And so in CRM, what that does is it kind of collects data on exactly what Breandan said on the your either your clients or your prospects, and you can use that to your advantage. Case in point is Sprint. When they were Sprint PCS, they started out and they were one of the quickest growing companies ever, and they soon took over the rest of Sprint. Right, they just changed it all to Sprint. Well, what happened is they built it and it just threw money at any problem. And what happened was when they finally consolidated everything, what they had tons of silos of information. Right? None of these processes will connect to each other. So the customer care, talking to these people, and then the sales people and the marketing people didn't have that kind of information. And so what that ended up doing was costing them tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars to combine all that stuff. And it was really kind of one of their downfalls, right? Until they end up being sold or actually merged into another company. So what I suggest is, if no matter where you are in your stage of business, is immediately start using a CRM and collecting this data. And again, we talked about it a couple of slides ago, is that, if you're not using it, your competition is, and they're gathering information on your clients. And if you're something that maybe you don't provide, they're out surfing the web looking for it. And your competition with their CRM is going, oh, it's this guy, and he's the decision maker in this company, and blah 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 blah, and they have all that information.
Hey, here's something else that's really funny too. I'm just going to interject here with this real quick. So Facebook,
Right.
You can actually go in and tag who you want to talk to by using your competitor's name in the ad, not in the front of the ad that would be visible to the to the prospect, but on the back side where you create it, when you pick your audience, you can actually target and put your information directly into your customer's feed, or not your competitor's feed to that's going out to their prospects and their clients. So that's how targeted this stuff has gotten. And you can also target influencers in your market based on all of this that you can leverage. There's just so many amazing tools. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
And that just talk about blowing off the top of your head. When I discovered that, I actually have sold, or I've gotten a couple people interested in horses from that by tagging other breeders that are very well known in a particular producing area. You know, they produce dressage horses, and I tagged them in the ads that I was sponsoring and promoting on Facebook. And I ended up getting people that said, hey, you know, we're not friends, we're not connected, but I saw this video of one of your horses and I'd love to get more information about them. So I actually ended up getting leads, and, you know, we'll see how it goes next Thursday. Somebody's flying in to sit on one.
right.
So anyway.
So yeah, and that's all absolutely true, and it's astounding the way things work now. But let's kind of reel it back in and talk in the terms of cross sell, right? So we're talking about your 20% of your clients that are 80% of your revenue. So if you think about it with the CRM, let's say you have it working within your sales team, and you have it working within your billing team, and you have it working within your customer service team. So let's look at a customer journey. So let's say they buy whatever it is, the top of the line product that you sell, and then they have some issues with it, or maybe they need some extra items that go with it. So they call service and they talk to them, and then maybe they go online and look at your website and kind of look at some of the products or even a competitor. So what ends up happening is that you can call them back and go, hey, you know, Joe Schmo, I saw that you had talked to somebody in care about, you know, having a couple of issues with this, and then I saw on the website that you were looking at, you know, this widget right here, which would kind of solve your problem. But what I want to warn you about is that what you really need is this widget, which is maybe a little bit less expensive, and it'll kind of help you, and then you can build onto that, and you know what you're doing is you're cross selling them, right? And you have information. It's not just a blind cover your eyes and throw darts at the dartboard. You're doing it based on what they've already searched on. So, you know, what was it, a few slides ago we had I forget what it said, predictably effective. That's what it was. This is what we're talking about. And you know, you can use the same thing with follow-ups and surveys and things like that. So CRMs are just outstanding for customer retention. And if you look up the statistics on everything, the average is about 30% growth in everything: in customer retention, better retention, increased sales, better customer service. It just goes on and on. But we're getting kind of low on time here, so I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. Next, you're going to need an email marketing platform, and they are like a mini CRM. They're not nearly as robust. And we're going to just talk about MailChimp here, but there's, like I said, Constant Contact and a host of other ones. But you know, they do things like they create marketing emails, they keep your contacts list, you can create landing pages, digital ads, social media. And one thing that I like about it is with MailChimp is you know, there's a rating system in the background, right? So you have your audiences, and you can segment them, and you can see what they've opened, what they've clicked on, how long they looked at things, and so they start giving them a star rating. And what you can do from that is determine, okay, these are the ones that are most likely to maybe purchase from me. So you can use data to make your efforts more effective. You're also going
And
to
it is critically important that if you've got campaigns going on or even weekly emails, you don't just set it and forget it. So it's a case of you do need to know your audience, and they give you dashboard reports that tell you exactly who are your most engaged audience and what should you be focusing on with them. Because I mean, it tells you, you can even drill down into what subject lines are they the most interested in based on what you've promoted. And we talk about MailChimp. I'll just really quickly here throw out, there's MailChimp. He talked about Constant Contact. There's a system called Infusionsoft that's very robust. Another one called ConvertKit. There are just some phenomenal platforms that you can use, and they are not expensive at all. And well, Infusionsoft is a little bit on the pricier side, but these are just amazing platforms and solutions that I had no idea what they were capable of until we really dove into this whole thing. So I'll go back, turn it back to you, Chris.
Yeah, and that's very true. And a lot of them will bill based on how many contacts you have and things like that. So certain ones have advantages in certain areas. So just do your research, right? So what you'll need, if you're going to do an email and kind of lead magnets and things like that, is you're going to need copy, right? And everybody thinks they can write copy. Everybody does, and most want to tout how good they are. But I'm here to tell you, is everybody's thinking about one person in the world, and it's not you. They want to know what's in it for them. They buy for emotional reasons, right? It's the old adage that it's easier to sell a car to somebody who's been in a wreck than it is for somebody who just wants an upgrade, right? Because there's pain there, and they have to have it because they have to get to work the next day, have to take the kids to school, and blah blah blah. So, um, and in this case, you're already in the door, so you need to know how to speak to them. And as to Brendan's point, is the data that you get from the email marketing platform is, you may think people are interested in X, Y, and Z, and find out they want to know about LMN, right? They want to know something completely different, and you may think that it's anybody with a wallet, and that's not true. And you talk to a millennial different than you talk to a Gen X, than a boomer, or what is the new one, Gen Z or whatever. Everybody communicates differently. So you need to either, if you may be good at this, but you got to think that your time is worth money, and what it may take you, I don't know, 5 hours to write copy that's for one email, or even a blog. Well, you can pay a copywriter, and they interview you maybe for an hour. You get 4 topics that you cover, and then they come back with 4 different articles for you, and it takes them a third of the time. And what you find out is the cost you pay for that maybe half of what it takes in your personal time to actually do these kind of things. So what I want to say is, don't be afraid to get help in areas. So, and then last is the landing page, and this is usually a function of your email marketing platform. um, you may want to, like we've used it to confirm data. Maybe if you bought a list, we had clients that bought a list, and we sent out nurture sequence emails that were not, hey, we're great, we're great, we're great. We're like, hey, you may not know us, but this is what we do, and we know you do this and this and this and this and this, some of the pain that you have, and we'd like to help. Go here and watch this free video on a free tip or trick, or download this lead magnet. And what they're really doing is they're going back and they're confirming who they are and that they're interested in what you got to sell, right? And you're not really going buy, 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 buy. So you may confirm data there. You may have a checkbox on that for them to get the lead magnet to download. They may have a checkbox for you to be able to send them um, any kind of tips and tricks that you have, right? So
It covers your opt-in.
right, you're trading a free give me for their information, for allowing you to send them information. You may want them to sign up, and one of my favorites is the limited time offer, the scarcity thing, which is really big for people. Is do this now, it's not going to be here in a couple of weeks, and that for some reason that makes people go, oh crap, I got to get it now. um, and then you can
The
follow up with
scarcity
these.
trigger is powerful. It
Oh,
is so incredibly powerful, as is the commitment trigger.
yeah, so it's, you can follow up with those, and who show interest but don't bite, right? So maybe you send out that email, and you have that, whatever, get permission form, let's say, and you see that they click through and they go to the landing page, and they're a little bit leery, so they don't sign, they didn't click on it or whatever. That. So you can maybe call them or send them another email, and that's encouraging or whatever. And it allows you to choose your strategies based on knowledge, not opinion or um, guessing, right? No more close your eyes and throw it out the window kind of thing. So. And then this is Brendan's big deal is close the deal, right? So we've targeted, we've figured out who we're targeting. We're figured out what the goal is, to increase revenue. We talked about CRM and all that kind of other stuff and the tools that you use. And that's where I ran into with my clients was for years is we know we got the response, we got the phone to ring, and but maybe revenue didn't increase. In some instances, revenue didn't increase, and what we found out was they weren't good at closing the deal, right? So you may have a sales team, you may be a solopreneur, but you know you need to know what your close rate is, right? Um, so your chances are going to be better when you're cross-selling or upselling, but you don't want to be too blunt or clumsy. So you need to know when to get help in this process. And so what I'm going to do is turn it over to Brendan here because this is her bailiwick.
Well, and one of the things that I do encourage you to really assess is at each one of these stages, you have to identify when is the likely entry point that the prospect is far enough down the buyer journey that, remember, they've gone through that awareness stage, they've self-selected into the rest of it, they've gone through consideration, they've evaluated their options, probably overcome some of their objections. Now it's time for you to help them really understand and engage at those next steps during this strategy. And what's important for you to really recognize about this is that marketing and sales truly do have to collaborate. This must be a cohesive effort. If you just have a cross-selling campaign that's hey, I'm going to reach out to 25 of my customers each week and tell them about XYZ product, and they reach out and make one phone call, then chances are your cross-sell initiative is going to end up being something that gets you not very doggone far. And I'm going to encourage you to really step back and say, what is going to be my strategy behind this? What is going to be the path, and be intentional about creating each step of it that we've talked about through here. So, okay, Chris, can you advance for me?
There you go.
All right. So when you think about what your roadmap is going to look like for profitable cross-selling, you have to really look at it from here's the stages that you look at. This is your target audience, your goal, and I want you to specifically set a goal of what do you want to bring in terms of new revenue. What are you going to allocate in terms of contacts in your CRM? What are the 4 to 6 emails that you're going to create using, again, that content path where you think about the different mental triggers. You make sure that your messaging and your tools are lining up during that path to progress them. Then you pull in the landing page so that there's that conversion that has them, again, it's that commitment step that they're going to go through in order to get to that highly engaged prospect that is ripe for you to pick up the phone and call and close the deal. And then, of course, remember that you've got to know when to reach out and get help. So if you are stuck with any of these areas, know that I lean on Chris heavily, and he is a phenomenal resource. And then also, I'm happy to help on the strategizing and brainstorming. And this is something that we offer quite a bit of resources around, particularly related to what you're going to be seeing in these weekly webinars. Message us with what questions you have. Get help so that you can get underway with this, because this is working, folks. Cross-selling is your key to revenue. It's your key to growth. It's your key to sustainability right now. So I can't emphasize enough how important it is for you to be focusing on this.
Oh, yeah. And we want to thank our sponsor here is Women's Business Center, I went to a webinar earlier this week and it was fantastic. I highly recommend that you go to Kansas City, WBC, evenbright.com, and look at some of the programs they're offering. And it's all free, and it covers a host of topics. It's all very, very good content. And then we'd like to invite you to check out the Brand You program. We have a landing page for it. The link is here. So we can send you this link when we send out the link to the YouTube video when we load it up to the channel. And I ask you that you subscribe to the YouTube channel when we send that out, and you'll get notifications of great new content as it comes up. But the Brand You program, if you click this link, and then you can go and learn some of what this offer is. And it's not, I don't want to blow my own horn or anything, but when I was meeting with Breandan as we're developing this program, it just gave me chills, some of the stuff that it covers and how well it covers it. And if you're anything like me, as I don't like walking down a hallway blind with sunglasses on in the pitch dark. I like to know, like to have a plan. I like to know where I'm going. And this is just a great way to get started on, maybe you want to build a knowledge product or some kind of service or offering. And it's fantastic, the information that you've got from this.
And we would also love to ask you, and we want to grow our audience. And you've been great listeners and participants. Would you be so kind as to share the webinar series that we're offering right now and give a shout out and invite someone to attend that you feel would benefit from the information that we are sharing, and who we specifically want to serve right now? We want to serve anyone that is transitioning in their life and figuring out what is it going to look like for them to offer a knowledge product or become a coach or consultant or pursue freelance or gig work. Whatever that looks like, that's who Chris and I have a heart to serve right now, as well as our core small business clients, those people that are trying to figure out just what is working right now and how can they put it to work for them. Maybe if they're not in a big company or they don't have access to big resources. Everything that we talk about is stuff that we're doing with minimal budgets and a willingness to roll up our sleeves and work in order to find what is creating revenue right now for businesses. And of course, please share the weekly email that we send out that I think y'all may be receiving. If you're not receiving it, just drop me a quick message. You can on the screen here. We've got our contact info up here. Message either one of us, and we are happy to include you in our weekly prospecting tip that we send out. And I want to say thanks again for taking time with us today. You've been a phenomenal audience. I appreciate and recognize the value of investment that you're making in us, of spending time and applying these concepts in your life and in your business. And I want to say thank you so much. And we are honored to be able to support you wherever you may happen to be right now. And I'm excited to see what you do with this. So message us and let us know what you're taking out of today and what you're going to use. And if you're viewing the recording, chat down in the comments what you're taking out of today, or ask us any questions about how this is going to apply to you and your business. And we're delighted to help serve you. And I want to say thanks again for just being you and being a lifelong learner and participating in this journey with us. So I want to wish you a great day and good selling. And Chris, what do you have to wrap up with?
I'm grateful. I know you all are very, very busy, and I appreciate that you spend your time with us. I know you have a lot going on, and the world is a little bit crazy right now, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit with us. Again, if you have any questions, we would love to talk to you. We'd love to have a virtual cup of coffee or a real cup of coffee. As long as there's coffee involved, I'm in. And thank you again for showing up, and please pass this on. Pay it forward if you can. And what is it that they need to know, Breandan?
You can have anything you want in the world as long as you help enough other people get what they want. Have a great day and good selling. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.